Welcome to our academic talk and discussion today. And I'm Soviyah, and I'm honored to be the moderator of these sessions. And before we go further into today's exciting discussions, let me briefly explain that today we have the team from University of Mindanao, Philippines, to share with us the topic on assessment and creativity in the context of education. I think that's going to be a very interesting idea for us all because, yeah, we are all coming from the same department, the same faculty. So we are being under the same big umbrella about the education issue. And I think the details about the issue today will cover the assessments, how it is like, and then how it is managed, especially in University of Mindanao, so that we can share the best practices that the University of Mindanao teams have, so that we can have new knowledge here, and that can complete the informations and also the knowledge that we have here. And for the session today, the sub-sessions will consist of the presentations from University of Mindanao teams, and then it will be continued with the interactive Q&A sessions, and that will be then there will be a closing remarks and next steps for after the discussions. And before we go on to the discussions, I'd like to take a moment to introduce the incredible UAD team for this event that makes this event possible. They are the Dean of the Faculty of Teacher Education, Bapak Muhammad Sayudi, Ph.D, and also Ibu Dr. Ani Susanti and Bapak Dr. Suyatno as the Vice Deans, and also in the audience are the lecturers of the departments in the Faculty of Teacher Education of UAD. And also the tim pembelajaran, we call that tim pembelajaran. What is that to call that? The team which is not managing, but the groups of people who are having interest in learning issues. Yeah, so that is tim pembelajaran, which is led by Bapak Faris MSE. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think to make the sessions effective, let's go straight to the first session, which is the presentations from the University of Mindanao teams, which will be presented by Justine, and then Tomas Junior A.Diquito. Sorry for mispronouncing Diquito. Yeah. So, yeah. Without further ado, so let's kickstart these discussions. The first speaker that will be Al Justine L. Lesmis, M.A. And yeah, having been spending years of experience in academic journey and holding expertise, I think it is fortunate for us all here to have Justine and also Thomas here today. So please, the floor is yours.
Okay. Selamat tinggal, Universitas Ahmad, Dahlan. Am I pronouncing it right? Selamat tinggal. Good day. Aye. Good day, Universitas Ahmad, Dahlan. So I am Lesmis from the University of Mindanao-Digos College. And before we start my discussion or my sharing of my experiences of this topic, I would like to say thank you for accommodating us. And we really feel the accommodation and warm welcome of the Universitas Ahmad, Dahlan. So right now, we are here today not just to discuss important concepts or important discussions about assessment, but we are delving on how should teachers, should do what is the right thing to do when we're going to assess our learners, especially in the 21st century. So we are dealing with 21st century learners, and as teachers, we are going to adjust ourselves in order to give, in order to serve our learners very well. Now, we're talking about creativity and assessment in learning. Now, what do you mean by assessment? Now, is really a good thing to ask teachers that assessment is part of the process. But in education, the term assessment refers to a wide variety of methods of tools that educators use to evaluate, measure, and document the academic readiness. If we talk about academic readiness, it is how are going to assess our students according to their readiness. Are they ready? Are they ready to learn, ready to grasp the things that they need to grasp while doing the activity? Also, learning progress, skill acquisition. If we talk about acquisition, it is how they acquired the basic concepts and how they will apply the essence of the concept that we're going to teach to them. And also, the number one thing is the primarily aspect or the primary goal of assessment is to give the educational needs of students. So as educators, we are really entitled with this responsibility to assess our students in a way that they will grasp, they will acquire, and they will apply it in a real life situation. Since we're producing students who can globally compete with all the skills that they have. So it is our responsibility as teachers. Okay, so according to University of Oregon, so in addition to that, assessment is a process of gathering and discussing information from multiple and diverse sources in order to develop understanding of what learners know, can do, and can act as a result of their educational experiences. We all know in the 21st century, we are not just in the traditional assessment. We are delving and we are we are not just delving, but also we are keep on doing so that our learners can learn the basic concepts and apply it in a real life situation. So the process culminates when assessment results are used to improve subsequent learning. If you're familiar with the theory of constructivist theory by Lev Vygotsky, Jerome Bruner's, and the most essential thing is the theory of John Dewey's, and the learning by doing, or the learning through experiences. Now we can say that these theories can help us to give or to conduct an effective assessment so that we can or we will know what is the need to our students, what is the competencies that needs to be targeted in order our students to get the essence of the concepts. We are not just rooting on the memorization, right? In the 21st century, our learners might be different. They're digitally expert. So if we talk about digitally expert, so they already know how to use technology than us, compared to us. There is a gap between our generation and their generation. Now with this advanced technology, and combining all the theories, then we can say that we can conduct an effective assessment through the use of advanced technology. Now, in addition also to that, according to Angelo, 1995, it is an ongoing process and involves a series of steps, namely gathering, analyzing, and interpreting data. Also, why we need to gather, why we need to organize. We gather data in order to understand our students based on the numerical records, right? So we analyze their scores based on the assessment that we gave to them. We have our rubrics. We have our holistic, or we have analytic rubrics that we can use through performance tasks or authentic assessment. Now, what do you mean by organizing? Organizing, it can be a quantitative or qualitative data. So when I say quantitative data, it is a numeric or a data analysis that from the assessment that we conducted from the student. When we talk about qualitative data, it talks about the statements, or we just say a feedback, or anecdotal records that based on our observation and based on the performance that they perform, based on the criteria that you want to target. Now, what is the purpose of assessment? Why we need to assess our student as an educator? We all know that assessment is part of the process. We really don't know if our learners will learn if we don't assess them, right? So if we're going to teach, the purpose of assessment is through expectations. Expectations are provided by instructional objectives that in turn are translated into learning outcomes. Now, what do you mean by instructional objectives? Our institution or school or campuses or any institution has its own instructional objectives based on the core values or the mission and goals of the institution. And I think the Universitas Ahmad Dahlan has also an instructional objectives based on its core values. And with that, we are going to make it as a springboard to translate it into learning outcomes. Now, what do you mean by learning outcomes? So learning outcomes, it is an objectives or an outcome-based performance that our students expected to do while they're learning the concepts. So as teachers, is it possible to teach without assessment? Well, it is part of the process to assess our students, especially in our field right now. Our students is different from us, especially if we're talking about learning by doing and learning through experiences. Without expectation, we have also standards. When we talk about standards, these are the levels of performance set by school authorities and by school officials as measures of excellence or attainment. I'm pretty sure that the institution or this institution has its own standards, right? We keep on doing for us, to our students, to become excellent, to become globally competitive. When they go out the campus, they will serve as an eye-opener that this kind of product is a product of this university through having this what we call standards. Now, sir, do we need to set standards? Yes. Standards will make us more will make us more expecting more for the students to do more. Just like, for example, if you're going to set an activity, if you don't have standard, then your activity is useless because you don't have standards. But if you set standards, just like, for example, at the end of the lesson, the students will be able to locate places, understand the culture, and appreciate the culture. That is your standard. And through your activity, learning activities, by assessing them, by asking them the essence of content, then we can conclude that your students might learn the essence of the concept. In the Philippines, we have this principle, according to the Department of Education Order number 8 series of 2015, that a classroom assessment is a process that is used to keep track of learning progress in relation to learning standards. We have learning standards, and with that learning standards, we have our own activities in order to target that learning competencies. So we have learning objectives. So first thing, to promote self-direction and personal accountability among learners about their own learning. Second, to provide basis for the profiling of learner performance on the learning competencies and standards of the curriculum. Our curriculum set as our standards, right? And with that curriculum, we might have what we call curriculum planning in order to really discuss what are the effective strategies, topic contents that students needs to acquire when they are learning the course or the subject. Okay, so now let's proceed with how assessment should be done inside the classroom. Now, in the concept, we have this assessment in the classroom, assessment of, assessment for, and assessment as learning. So basically, we know this already, right, ma'am and sirs, no? But if we're going to discuss about this, assessment of learning, it is a assessment where the teachers assist to use evidence of student learning to assess students' achievement against learning goals and standards. We have summative tests, right? We have chapter tests, just to see if our students really studied well the concept that you taught on them. Next is we have assessment as learning. Assessment as learning, it involves students in the learning process where they monitor their own progress. So in assessment as learning, we conduct a diagnostic test or test before we're going to adjust our teaching methods, right? So for example, if the concept, we will know if the students really know or has a background about the topic if we conduct diagnostic tests. If we have, based on the numerical data, if the data said that this class needs to reteach or need to discuss more about the concept, then we can adjust our teaching, but by going back or by tracking again the basic concept before going to more complex topics. And the most important thing, ma'am and sirs, is the assessment for learning. This is a process where our responsibility as teachers really needs by our students. It is all about monitoring, feedback, and assessing our students during the learning process. In our discussion, we have a motivation, we have a lesson proper, and we have analysis, abstraction, and later on is the application. Now, where is the assessment for learning during that process? The assessment for learning during that process, you can use that assessment as an integral part or teaching and learning process through giving feedback or guiding your students along with the learning activities that you conducted. For example, if you're teaching subjects like more about science, and it's really impossible if you will teach to your students those important chemicals without seeing them, so they will just imagine, right? But if we are going to use a strategy, just for example, is an activity that our students might interested and be part of the discussion or be part of the learning activity, then we can have a feedback on how they learn the topic. For example, we can, in a class, we can observe, or we usually observe those students who has a challenge in subsuming the topic, right? So we have diverse students. Those students who are academically achiever and those students who are academically challenging. So those academically challenging, those students needs our guidance as teachers, especially if in giving feedback. Now, the definition of assessment for learning, we are talking about a real world assessment wherein our teachers or our students rather need our guidance. But how are we going to guide our students? In the 21st century, we are the facilitators of learning. Meaning to say, our students will our role as teacher is not just to give our time fully to talk in front of the class. That is a traditional assessment. Now, in the 21st century, it's different. We are applying the important concept of authentic assessment for learning. Now, what do you mean by authentic assessment for learning? It is a real-world assessment that is meant to focus on the impact of one's work in real or realistic and often messy contexts. In a real-world authentic assessments, there might there may or may not be mere writing or hands-on, but the assessment is meant to focus on the impacts of work or in real or realistic context. The essence of concept is not just memorizing or defining the concept. The essence of learning the concept is how they are going to apply the essence of concepts when they graduate the institution. Now, we have this what we call formative assessment. Now, formative assessment is part of the assessment for learning. Now, formative assessment may be integrated in all parts of the lesson. It can be before the lesson, it can be during the lesson, or after the lesson. Now, before the lesson, what is the role of the learners? The learners understand the lesson purpose and identifies what they know about the topic. What is our role as a teacher? We determine what the learners know, what the learners knows and can do. So we are first we're going to apply the deductive, somehow inductive, from general to specific or specific to general, depending on how we're going to teach the concepts. There are some concepts that it really needs guidance to the teachers first. There are some concepts or topics that we can conduct it through learning activities before we're going to assess them and before we're going to let them learn the concept. Now, during the lesson, the learners monitors one's progress, while the teachers tracks learning progress in comparison to formative assessment result before the lesson. Somewhat of a responsibility, we're going to check the students. Am I understood? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Okay. If you really understood the topic, we will have an activity. Okay, let's have a performance task. And through that performance task, you will observe, especially in the collaborative, there will be group into 4 or 5 or groups. Then you will observe to them who is performing well, who is more challenging in terms of acquiring the concepts, and those learners needs your guidance during that process. And you can also make a formative assessment after the lesson. The learners recognizes whether they have met the learning objectives, and the teachers assess whether learning objectives or competencies have been met. In teaching, we're always considering, or the primary thing that we need to consider is our learning competencies or learning objectives. We cannot teach the lesson without objectives, right? So first, we set objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students are expected to, they will demonstrate, or like you say, identify, demonstrate, discuss, and apply. Those are the domains according to some theories of education, especially the cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. The cognitive is how they acquire the basic concepts. The psychomotor is how they work in order to learn the concepts that they subsume. And the last is affective. It's from the heart. What is the relevance of that topic to your life or to your career, to your future career? Now, through formative assessment, we can observe, we can make an anecdotal record based on what we are based on the observation that we conducted based on activity, and also we can give a solution to address the problem, because we all know that our learners has its own problem, especially in academic issues, especially in acquiring, and most especially time management and study habits. Now, always remember my teachers to be reminded with these 5 principles of assessment for learning. First is we need to have an effective feedback. What do you mean by feedback? As a teacher, we need a feedback to our student. How? Every end of, during the lesson, we can ask the students, do you find difficult and how to learn the topic? How can I help you? Oh, you are performing you are performing so well. Very good. That's a feedback. You can do more. Great job. That's a feedback. And always remember that giving an effective feedback will motivate our students and they will have an effective student involvement. Right? As we motivate our students to learn more, to grasp more, even though that they are suffering or they feel the challenge on acquiring the knowledge, as long as the teacher always give effective feedback and motivate his or her student, then we can say that there is a motivation to our students to get involved during the activity. And by that, if we observe that our learners find difficult to acquire the lesson, and we can observe it through their numerical analysis or it can be their performance task, we can adjust our teaching strategies. As teachers, our teaching strategy might not be effective in all classes. That is why, as a teacher, we always do have plan A to Z. What do you mean by plan A to Z? Plan A to Z is a technique where we have a lot of strategies inside our mind if there are unforeseen circumstances during the class. So through adjusting teaching strategies, we are going to help our students, especially for those classes who are academically challenging in acquiring the concepts. As teachers, we need also to consider our learners first before we are going to give the activity. Are they ready? Those are the questions. Am I teaching enough the concept before I will give the teaching strategy or impose the teaching strategies for that student? And also, we will focus on learning goals. Our learning goals or learning competencies are in the curriculum. So what is the essence of this topic? Through these learning goals, we can produce good students, good products of the university. And these students will serve as our product, as our marketing product, that they will tell that the university is giving the best of its students by having a good principles of assessment. Through good feedback, motivating a student to have a good student involvement, and adjusting teaching strategies based on the learner's capabilities. And also, as teachers, we will create a supportive environment. We all know the theories of constructivism, Jerome Bruner's, Piaget, and even the most important is the Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory. These theories, these learning theories serve as our guiding principles in teaching, especially right now. So we are very what do you call this? We're very hesitant. What are the activities that need to be imposed? Since lecture is not always effective, students might get bored, might not be interesting because they think that the topic is not really interesting to learn. But through effective teaching strategies and also with a good planning of our teachers, then we can say that our learners can easily subsume the real essence of the topic. Always remember that when we're going to choose an assessment and assess what you call this, an activity, we have to consider if it is valid, fair, reliable, and the most especially is authentic. With valid, it is accurately assessing the learning objectives. Through what? We have this, what we call rubric, holistic rubrics and analytic rubrics. That is with when you are going to assess your students using authentic assessment. So always present the guidelines of the activity and the expected outcome of the activity. And also, the most important thing, the rubric. Once you have the rubric, a detailed or an analytic or holistic, your students will be guided during the learning process. Fair. Now, it is a big issue, the fairness. Now, as teacher, we have to be fair in assessing our learners. That's why we have our rubrics. Based on my experience, I can say that the most effective rubric is the analytic rubric. Since the analytic rubric has its own standards, has its own level, so that as a teacher, you will know the skills already. You will just put check or based on the rubric or criteria given. Reliable. It is easily understood. Is the topic reliable? Are you reliable as a teacher? That's why we have this content knowledge, right? I don't know if you're familiar with TPAC model. Technology, pedagogical, and content knowledge. These concepts must be blended together in giving assessment to our students. First, the technology. Right now, we have to really learn how to use technology, especially the use of gamification, the use of, media, in order to really to give activities to our students. Since our learners right now is different. Pedagogical, it is how we teach the subject, the art of teaching, the strategies of teaching, and most especially the content knowledge. If we don't have content knowledge, we cannot easily deliver our lesson. Without technological knowledge, well, it might be obsolete to us to really to teach the concept, and our students might get bored. So those are the concepts, the TPAC model. We should know this, and these concepts should be blended together when we're going to teach the content or the subject. And last is the authentic. It is true to the discipline and a student's own work. Learning by doing, learning through experiences is effective compared to a classroom environment that is a teacher is only transferring the knowledge. In the 21st century classroom, both teachers and students are learning together. It might be that teachers, we are not perfect. Sometimes we forgot those concepts. And those concepts might be advancedly read by our students. So by that, we are both learning. So we have also this goal, or goal-oriented instructional model. So we have from the specific objectives, the pre-assessment, the instruction, and evaluation. First, we're going to specify the objective. Second, identify our learners. If we have many classes on that subject, then we will identify this kind of classes. This kind of classes is more about kinesthetics. They're kinesthetically talented. This group of students or classes or group of class is more on verbal reasoning. This is another class is more on artistic. So that in that way, through the specification of objectives and the nature of the learners, you will be able to know and apply or conduct a good assessment or a good performance task to them. That is in the process of instruction. When you teach, when you deliver, make sure that your students will grasp the importance or the basic concept of that topic. After that one, they will work how to understand the topic. And later on, you will assess. That is the principle, the guide on the side. We're just in the center, just roaming around and checking our students. Are you okay? What is your problem? So that is what we call assessment for learning. And after the activity, you will give feedback. Keep it up, good job, and you can do more. That is a motivation so that our students will be more involved in the next discussion. And also the evaluation. That is the time if we're going to evaluate our lesson, if it is effective or not. That is why we adjust our teaching strategies. And what is the impact of effective assessment? So, according to some researchers, these are the primary impact of effective assessment. First is the impact on student achievement. Now, according to the research of Black and William, 1998, is if there is a good feedback to our student, there's also a good impact on student achievement. Why? Because as a teacher motivates and monitors his students, the students will do more and will give more efforts to achieve more. Next is enhancing student motivation and engagement. We have this what we call student engagement. I have a research conducted when I was in college. We conducted positive discipline and student engagement. Now, based on the recommendations and findings, we conclude that in our respondents, having a positive discipline and positive motivation will give a good impact and motivation for the students to engage more in the class. That is the effectiveness of positive discipline to student engagement. Next is the shift in classroom dynamics. This is what we call adjustment or adjusting in teaching strategies. If we know that this topic or if this activity is not effective, then we can adjust. We can make another option so that our learners can understand what you are teaching. And the most important thing, the continuous learning. Continuous learning or a lifelong learning, this is a value-laden concept that our students, through learning activities, students will learn something. It can be an attitude or it can be a characteristic. For example, the word resiliency. Resiliency, courage. That kind of learnings that they can get through the activity is an example of a hidden curriculum. Hidden curriculum, it is not stated in this specific curriculum, but it is learned by applying the curriculum. That is attitude. So the students will be able to bring and to apply those concepts when they reach or when they graduate or when they become as a professional. And as a teacher, we always remember that assessment in the spirit does not concern with assignment of grades of evaluation, whether it is an instruction, was effective or ineffective. Now, as teachers, assessment designed squarely to fade into the learning process and make the learning stronger. And I will have a discussion with my own quote. Through the lens of assessment, we transform learning from a wandering path into a journey with purpose, where every challenge measures our progress and sharpens our intellect. Let me add something. The success of the students is the success of the teacher. The failure of the students is the failure of the teacher. We have the responsibility to our students to make them transform and to make them an effective citizen in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Al, for sharing with us the basic principles and assessment. We are feeling like we are refreshed. Yeah, so I think, I believe that everybody here found the presentations, the explanations given by Al just now insightful, and everybody has got interest and questions, I guess. So I think we are going to go straight to the Q&A sessions, in which we invite the audience here to address, to give Al some questions or confirmations, or to ask for more explanations regarding the assessment issue. So please do, Bapak Ibu. Anybody want to start? Pak Faris, I think, gives smile from there.
the first step of this model, and can we just use that question as the assessment? Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Actually, you can use that question. That is part of assessment.
That is as, or maybe we can call it as assessment as learning, or for learning, or of learning.
Okay. When you ask questions, is that during the activity? During the activity, then that is assessment for learning. So assessment for learning is more about monitoring, guiding the students when they acquire the lesson. While the assessment as learning, you are giving, or this is one of the example to that is you can have a diagnostic. Based on the data that you gather, you can adjust your teaching strategies, and during the activity you can also ask questions. But it really depends on the process. If you ask questions that is not that is a new topic, then we can conclude this assessment as learning, because you're asking them without since your student, or you're asking the topic, that topic might not be a new topic before you proceed. Sometimes we ask those questions. What is that? Then our students might not be answering because, "Ma'am, sir, we don't understand. We don't know the topic." That's why we adjust. We adjust our own strategy. So if we think that the learners don't know the concept, then we will adjust. And during that adjustment, that is the time that you will apply the assessment for learning. So you will assess the learners based on their performance by giving them a feedback and guiding them. And after that one, you can conduct a formative assessment. It can be through authentic assessment or through traditional. And if the result of that is not really aligned with what you are expecting, then you have to adjust again, whether to reteach the concept or to reteach again the old concepts. So since the assessment asks for and of join together, but in the lecture, we can also apply the assessment as learning if we are going to check the background of the students, if they really know the concept. If they don't know, then we can adjust. And that's the time we conducted an activity that will suit to their learning capabilities and also to their as a learner.
May I ask again about the progress learning? We have teacher certification program. This is the Dr. Pianata as the lead of, and it has a brand. We have a brand that the student will do by using PPL or PJPL model. They have difficulties to assess the it's require a long time. So they are asking me how to assess. Can we assess them learning? As I said before, that PPL is used as the assessment as learning, right? What about the PGPL? Can we just do that too, or maybe another option that we can assess?
It really depends on the objectives of the teacher. If it is on how he or she conduct the lesson, or how he or she going to teach the lesson to student. It can be as or for. But again, we have to really know first our students. That's why those basic concepts, that need to learn by our students, we need to teach that before we going to move with the complex of the lesson. So maybe we can use as or for before we can use an assessment of learning as a final judgment or evaluation based on the output that they are working. So we can use as or for. Through assessment for learning, we can apply the law of exercise. Yeah, they can also learn with your guidance, and when they learn the concept, then you can give another assessment to them. It can be assessment of learning. Okay. In the University of Mindanao, in University of Mindanao-Digos College, or as a whole institution, we always apply the principle of the combination of traditional and authentic assessment. Authentic assessment is a performance base. We have also theory practice base. So when we are going to assess our students in the course syllabus, we have those topics that students will undergo a theory practice based assessment or traditional. Along with that, there's also an authentic assessment or performance-based assessment. This is to ensure that our learners is not just learning the concept by memorization, but also applying through performance-based. In the Philippines, in the secondary education, elementary education, we have this K-12 curriculum. And this curriculum focuses not just the traditional assessment, but also the performance-based assessment that the learners can subsume when they learn or when they go along with the topic. So it is a combination of traditional and authentic assessment. Now, as teacher, we can always apply both if we want to apply that in a single classroom or in a single lesson. We can always apply that one. Traditional, you can ask them by having a quiz, short quizzes. Or it might be you can give a performance task or by having a group or a role playing or having a debate. That is what we call a performance base. So you are just sitting or just standing in front of them and assessing them based on the competencies that you need to target. So in our university, we always have this combination, traditional and authentic assessment. Since our core values or one of our tagline or our goal is polishing diamonds in the rough. So what do you mean by polishing diamonds in the rough? Those students, we are applying open education. So we accept students with no entrance exam. But along with the years that they stayed for the university, it is our responsibility to polish those students to become globally competitive when they graduate in our institution. And we believe having a authentic assessment and traditional assessment as a blending, what you call this, joined together in applying during our classes might be an effective to us, not just a teacher, but also a good impact also to the institution. Because if we are always applying traditional, then as we are going to encapsulate, traditional assessment is just merely a paper and pencil test. They will just answer. They will just choose the best answer. But having a performance-based assessment or outcome-based assessment, you are expecting to your students to have an output based on what they are learning, based on what you teach to them. So for example, we have this portfolio, evidence-based, that is authentic assessment. For example, is you have a classroom discourse, a panel discussion inside the class. But as a teacher, the crucial part of authentic assessment is if the teacher don't know how to conduct the activity or don't have any idea how to conduct the topic. That is why we always consider our teaching strategies and the learners.
Thank you for the materials. Assessing in this era is challenging,
Yeah.
I think. And yeah, I agree that we assess the performance of our students here. But then there is the advance of technology, of course. And related to my subject, writing, I think it is not that easy to assess the real performance of the students. Probably here you can share with us here the practice or best practice that the teachers do in your college or in the educational institutions there, how to deal with say for example chat GPT in relation to writing or other tools that can help the students, because we cannot ignore their presence and existence in our academic life. Okay, so please share here. Thank you. I am Nur Fatima.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That is a rampant problem nowadays, especially to the advanced technology or artificial intelligence. So we cannot assure that the output of our student is really their output. Now, one of our practice, we're also struggling on that, ma'am, to be honest. But what we are doing, especially in our department, like the Department of Teacher Education, especially in writing, we conducted that kind of assessment during the class to ensure that the students will not be using any gadgets or any material that might be affected with their output. So the best thing that we can do, or I think that we can do in this kind of problem, is we have this what we call a strong guidance, and also with the monitoring of the teacher, we can conduct an activity during the lesson with your guidance, ma'am. Since we cannot control our students, even though we give assignment to them, they will just chat. They will just search it in the chat GPT. Then what is blah blah blah? And then they will copy and paste. The harsh thing is they forgot to delete those concepts. That is why we can easily detect. But the thing that we can do is to really have a strong monitoring. Having for example, if you have are you from a writing language, ma'am? Yeah. So you can English department. So you can have an on-site, on the spot writing. Yeah, so that they will just, we will not use ChatGPT. And again, we are always practicing this classroom management. So with the classroom management and classroom monitoring, then we can address the problem of having that kind of ChatGPT practice or artificial intelligence, because our students nowadays are very depending on that kind of technology. So that is my advice, or one of our practice in the university, ma'am. I hope you can apply it. But the crucial thing, ma'am, is how are we going to monitor our student by having one teacher alone inside the class, especially if having 50 students. How many students do you have, ma'am? Less than 50. So you can monitor them. You can set a day with them, and then that day, with the classroom management and discipline, you will not allow them to use phones. And then give them a challenge. Just 1 hour, you will make an essay out of this, and they will write it with no gadgets. So that is a practice, ma'am, especially in language or writing.
Thank you.
In language, especially if we required our students to make a speech, and then on the day of the performance, the schedule of the performance will be tomorrow, then there might be a tendency that your students might use artificial intelligence. But giving them a lot of time by providing or by guiding them during the process, they will not do or having that kind of action of using AI. So I suggest there's always a proper monitoring and stronger guidance during the process. So for me, I really discourage, or we really discourage to give an assignment to our students, especially essay or what you call this, reflection or journal, since we know already our students. They're smarter than us in terms of that. So we need also to be smarter on them. We need to address that problem. So I hope you are satisfied with my answer, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. So the key to manage the issue of the trend of using ChatGPT among the students is having a good control over the students. Guiding them is another things that we need to make sure that we give to them as well. Thank you, Bu Nur Fatima. And other questions, maybe? Ibu Pujiati, Bu Profesor Betina, Bu Umi, yeah.
Thank you. This is simple. When I pay attention to what you have presented, it's about like assessment principles. I couldn't find the one which is practicality. You mentioned about validity, reliability, and then any other. Do you think that practicality is not important in assessing the students? I mean in the assessments for learning. Thank you.
So practicality of the lesson or the test. Okay. So when we give an assessment, the concept of being practical, we can also apply that one. If we think that there are a lot of constraints or there are a lot of barriers that we can conclude or we can conduct that kind of study, we can shift or we can do a practical more. But if the result is not really good, then you can reteach or you can have another assessment on them. That's why you can do both. You can use traditional, or you can use also authentic. In our university, or one of my practice is when the result of the test of my students is very low, then I have to somehow think and somehow what is the next thing that I'm going to do. So being practical, I have to shift to another type of assessment, which is authentic assessment, so that you will know if there is a problem to your students or there's a problem on how they understand the concept. But also, there are some subjects or courses that it's really hard to find or to conduct a good authentic assessment. That is why we keep on going to traditional. It's very hard because I cannot think which is the best thing I can conduct when I'm going to conduct authentic assessment. So that is why I go back to traditional. That's the only thing that we that's the usually case, even now of these days. So that is part of the silver lining of a teacher. How are we going to assess our students in a practical way? So for you, ma'am, I can say that you can have your own, or for example, you can assess your student first. But if you see or if you observe based on the result that your students, the scores of your students might low, so you can shift to another type of assessment, or you can adjust. That is why we have just adjusting. That is adjusting the strategy or adjusting the assessment.
Thank you Al, for the explanations. And I think because there will be another sessions for Tomas, I think for these sessions, we can stop the Q&A for this, yeah, and then we will continue with Tomas' sessions in which he will share informations regarding the research collaborations or an issue around that. I think that's going to be a very interesting informations and also issue for us all here. So once again, before we go to Thomas' sessions, let's give big hand to Justine for the explanations. And now, Thomas, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So I'm very honored at the same time, very nervous because I am here sitting with the most esteemed and brightest faculty member of Universitas Ahmad. So I am very thankful to be invited as one of your guest speaker for this session. So my topic is creativity and innovation in learning. And maybe later I will share the different objectives and goals of our university in terms of the research. So my topic is creativity and innovation in learning. When I received this topic, I'm somehow excited, at the same time asking many questions. How can I deliver this topic to these very esteemed and brilliant-minded faculty members? And this topic is somehow one of the emerging topic in the education sector. So why? It's because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. So with the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the education system was severely affected. So I guess this is not just in the Philippines, in our country, but for the entire world. Like in the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a lockdown in our country. So allow me to share first what happened to our country during the first wave of the pandemic. So in the first wave of pandemic, I guess it's in 2020, 2019, 2020, 2020. So our government implemented lockdown. And with this lockdown, some areas or regions in our country somehow there is a total lockdown wherein person from other areas can't go to that specific area or region. So that is the lockdown. And with that, our education is severely affected. Like for 2 years, we implemented the modular learning for the basic education. So I don't know here in Indonesia if you implemented the modular learning during the COVID-19. So in our country, we implemented the modular learning wherein we educators develop modules, and we sent those modules to our students. So that is different to the blended learning. So when we say the blended learning, it is where our students go in the university, and then we will conduct face-to-face classes, and there are several days that they will stay in their home or their dorm and do the activities there. So that is the blended or the online learning. Okay, so in our country, for 2 years, we implemented the modular learning. And last academic year, majority of the institutions or higher education institutions and the basic education as well implemented the blended learning. Okay, so before I proceed with my discussion, may I ask if that is the same situation in Indonesia? Like, it's the same? Or, you did. Okay, so thank you, ma'am. So, yes, that is the blended mode of learning. So, in our country, we implemented that one 2 years after the pandemic. So, currently in this school year, I guess it's in the 4th year of the pandemic. So, in this year, we implemented face-to-face classes, wherein in our case, in our university, like in 1 week, with our students will go to our in the school for 3 days, or it depends on the courses. Like if if the course or the subject is laboratory, so they need to be in the school for 5 days. So that's the setup now in our institution. But in different institutions in the Philippines, so some institution is still doing the blended modality of learning. But for us in the University of Mindanao, we are now in the face-to-face classes. So with this topic, the creativity and innovation in learning. So when I received this topic, somehow I am very nervous because how can I deliver a significant topic to these brilliant people? So creativity and innovation. And this topic is very relevant in the current context. Why? It's because in the current context wherein we are forced, teachers, to innovate things because there are learning losses. So allow me to present to you the article by the UNICEF. Okay, so according to UNICEF, learning losses from COVID-19 could cost this generation of students close to $17 trillion in lifetime earnings. So, based on my experience as well, like we are now in the face-to-face in our university, I can really feel that there is a learning gap. There are learning losses. So why? Because when I ask the students basic concepts, like by the way, I'm teaching biology, so I'm a science teacher. So like the concept of matter, the concept of atom, and some of these students can't understand or can't explain the basic concept. So there are learning losses. And one of the most challenging part is the reading comprehension. So the students know how to read, but when you ask them the meaning of words or the things that they understand while reading, somehow their statements or their statements are somehow lacking, or they don't know what they're saying. No? So by that, I can, as an educator, I can say that the learning losses is true. Okay, so according to World Bank as well, COVID-19 school closures, next slide please. COVID-19 school closure fueled big learning losses, especially for the disadvantaged. So who are these disadvantaged? These are the marginalized group of students or learners. So I don't know in this university, because we do have different practices as well as different group of students. So in our case, in our university, we are open education. So it means that regardless of their background, we don't have entrance exam, and regardless of their race, ethnicity, and etc. So we will actually accommodate them. So with this disadvantage, especially for those learners who belong to the who are learners enrolled in the far-flung areas, like they don't the school did not implement online teaching or online learning. They focus us only in the modular learning, are those learners who are really disadvantaged. So that is why it is a very big challenge for us educators nowadays to create something in order for our learners to cope up with those with the changing education system. So the learning losses is also supported by different literature. No, like for example, in the study of Hevia et al., Bartholo et al., and etc. So they really mentioned that there are learning losses, and I guess as an educators, I guess you already observed that there are learning losses, especially in the mathematics program. So in the mathematics program, especially dealing with different concepts, difficult concepts, difficult formula, so we can really attest that there are learning losses. And in my field, science, this is evident in the chemistry and physics subjects, and we really need to go back to the basic and teach them the basic concepts before we proceed with the higher concept. So with that, there are strategies to cope up with learning losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the learning losses, as an educator, we should create things, we should try to innovate things in order to cover up these learning losses. So, according to the Asian Development Bank 2022, there are 4 basic strategies to recover to learning losses or learning loss. So first, teaching should be tailored to the student's current learning level. So, when we say teaching should be tailored to the student's current learning level, it means that we should have a diagnostic assessment wherein we will try to understand the level of the competency level of our students. Like for example, in the case of my subject, chemistry, like for example, the concept of atom, what is the competency level of our students, of my students? Do I need to go back in order, do I need to cover up to those learning losses? So that is the first, according to the Asian Development Bank 2022. Second, the curriculum can be revised or consolidated to give more time to core or foundational competencies, notably in literacy and mathematics, because these competencies are very crucial. But we are not saying here that other competencies are not crucial, but these competencies, 2 competencies, are the most crucial, especially the literacy and mathematics. So when we say the basic literacy, like reading, writing, and basic numeracy, so those are the basic competencies. Third, learning hours. Within the day, the week, or the year can be increased. So according to Asian Development Bank, if it's possible, we should increase the number of hours. So like, for example, if your subject is good for 1 hour, maybe we can design it to make it like 1 hour and 30 minutes and etc. So this is according to Asian Development Bank. But for us in the University of Mindanao, it's still the same. We, like if the subject is good for 1 hour, then 1 hour. We will follow the time frame of our subject. And fourth, re-enrollment campaigns can encourage the return of students who dropped out during the pandemic and are at risk of not returning. So I guess we observed that there are students of ours who dropped out during the pandemic. So there are many students, like in our case, like there is a 20% dropped out or 10% dropped out during the pandemic. So there is a big gap. So this is according to the Asian Development Bank. So as an educator, how can we address the learning losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic? So I will present the 4 practices that I do, and as well as the practices that our university somehow uses. So we should bring the innate creativity within us educators, because we are all educators and we should be creative. No, not just in assessment, but also in conducting lecture and discussion. And by becoming an innovative educators in our field of expertise, because we do have different field of expertise. So first, so this is my our practice in the university. So next slide, please. First is improve testing to measure learning levels. So we conduct periodic formative summative assessment for periodic formative and summative assessment, but we focused on the most essential learning competency or competencies. And we also use the competency-based assessment. So what is this competency-based assessment and the most essential learning competency? Now, in our case, we do have the syllabus. And I don't know if the term syllabus is the same. Okay, so the syllabus. So in our syllabus, we do have the competencies. And this most essential learning competency, during the assessment, we focused on that competencies. And one innovation that we created in the university is the competency-based assessment. Like in every semester, like in our department, next slide please. In our department, we use this model. Okay, so especially in our department. So first is we conduct formative. So all education students, like from first year, second year, third year, we conduct the formative assessment. They will take the examination for 1 day. And based from that examination, we will consolidate the result. And from that, we will give that result to the teachers. Like for example, in the subject of child and adolescent development, like if the competency level of the first year students in the subject child adolescent development is having an average score or mean score of 35% out of 100% whole first year, so it means that their competency is very low because it's only 35%. So we will give that to the teachers, and by that, the teachers can create solutions, no? So solutions. So there is an input like conduct of classes. So we use technology integration. So in our case, in the university, we have this learning management system or LMS. So wherein we send our lectures, recorded discussions, and etc. to reinforce the learnings. So aside from conducting face-to-face classes, we reinforce the learnings of our students through the files that we've sent. And then after that one, after the course is completed or 1 school year, we conduct the summative assessment. So this summative assessment will check if the teaching or the intervention that was implemented or that were implemented is good or not good or bad. So based from my own personal experience, because I'm the competency appraisal coordinator in our institution, there is an increase when it comes to competency level. So we conducted intervention programs. So what are these intervention programs? Like for example, if we found out that the learners or the learner is not prepared to take this subject, like basic mathematics, so the teacher will tell us that these students need to have an intervention. And with that, we will conduct an intervention to those group of students in order for us to cover the learning losses. So that is our practice in our university when it comes to conducting or to improve our testing measure. Second is strengthen feedback mechanism to support student. By the way, I forgot to mention that in the first part, we implemented the fourth industrial revolution dimensions like the use of big data analytics and simulation and etc. We use that one. For the second input is to strengthen the feedback mechanism. So in our institution, we use this e-consultation. So I don't know if you implemented this e-consultation. Yes. So e-consultation. So this e-consultation is embedded to our system. Like the students can submit a request through digital or our LMS or our system and request for a dialogue with teacher and etc. So or vice versa, we teacher can send a send a notification to our students through e-consultation that we will conduct consultations to our students. So this is embedded to our system. So sometimes during the COVID-19 pandemic, during the 2 years of the pandemic, we use Google Meet and Zoom so to conduct a consultation. But in the current context wherein we are now in the face-to-face classes, e-consultation is still used. But in the current context, the students and teachers can send requests through our LMS or through our system, and we conduct face-to-face consultation. Next is the use of pre-recorded lessons to highlight the most essential learning competencies. So I experienced this well because I joined many online courses, like online trainings and etc. So, like when I take some of the online courses in the United Nations, or sponsored by United Nations and etc., it really helped me. So the pre-recorded lessons, and not just based on my personal experience, but to my students as well. So wherein we record those, or somehow we conducted a video recording to those most essential learning competencies, and we will send that recordings to our students in order for them to review the lessons before taking the major examination. So this is in line with the digitalization and simulation. And last one is the use of the game-based learning as a supplemental tool in teaching or learning. So this is in support to the augmented reality, simulation, and autonomous robots based on the fourth industrial revolution. So this morning, I was really amazed when I go to your museum. No, so it's very big and yeah, it's very nice. So I experienced the augmented reality in the museum, wherein there is a globe there, and you will there is an iPad, yeah, and there is a projection. So actually, I really appreciate the innovation. No, so that is the first time I've seen how augmented reality really works. No, so game-based learning or gamification is one of the thing that I've been doing for a while, and I really love this one because gamification can somehow bring the innovative mind or creative mind of our students. So not just our students, my students, but as well as for me as the teacher. So I conducted many researches with the gamification, and I found out that there is an increase in terms of competency level, increase of motivation, passion, and etc. when we use gamification. So what is this gamification? So gamification is the application of games to our normal class or lecture. So like for example, we created a game for learning the periodic table of elements. So wherein the students can play. So like there is a board game there and the elements and with the descriptions of those elements. So the students can play, and we also created a card game and many more. So based from that experience, I can say that game-based learning can really help our students, especially in this time of crisis. No, that there are learning losses that we should really cope up. But in my experience as well, game-based learning should not be used as a tool, as a what do you call this? I forgot the term, but should not be. I forgot the term. Should not replace the actual teaching. So game-based learning is a supplemental tool only. So, but should not replace the actual teaching. So, like you can embed that in your strategy or technique, no, in your part of your strategy or technique. So, in terms of applications, there are many applications in the App Store or Google Play Store. Like in our case, in our biology, there is a cell tour in the application that the students can download, and then they can see that there is a mitosis, meiosis, and etc. So we use as well different simulations in science. So like for example, the free simulations like the PhET simulation and etc. to discuss or to as a supplemental tool in the discussion of the difficult concepts, because especially in our case in science, it is very difficult for us to persuade our students that this is the concept. They should really see how the concepts really work in the actual classroom or in the actual scenario. Okay? So I guess those are the things that I've seen. Those are the things that I think the most crucial when it comes to creativity and innovation in learning, especially in the context of, in our context. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas, for sharing with us some topics that we can do research further about them, which are related to more on innovations and creativity, but it can also be related to the assessment. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. And I think because the times is already up, I guess, so I think, well, any questions? I think one more questions will do. Yeah.
Thank you for the time. My name is Risanti. I'm from Biological Education Department. I want to ask you one question. What is the recent innovation in your institution, especially in biological education after the pandemic? Thank you.
Okay, so the recent innovation in terms of the biology education. So as for now, especially the science teachers, we are into the gamification. Okay, so actually, we use the physical gamification, not just the e-copy or the downloaded or the soft copy version, the physical. So our students created various games, like for example, board game, card game, any games that they can create. So that is the recent innovation in the science education. So we use gamification in learning.
More to gamification issue. Yeah. So what is the more practical information that you can share with us? Is that in the form of the students' research topics, or what can you share with us further about that? Yeah, yeah. How the gamification issue is applied in real academic activities in University of Mindanao, especially in biology education.
So in that case, thank you, ma'am, for that question. In that case, the games that were created is just only for as a supplemental tool, but we do have a laboratory wherein our students can apply all those learnings. So the purpose of the games is to learn the basic concepts and as well as the knowledge of those difficult concepts before proceeding with the actual experimentation. So that's the case, ma'am.
Yeah. So there is a laboratory there where the students can access so that they can learn or they can study using the tools available there. Yeah. So I think that's a very important information that we can have an inspiration to. Yeah. Yeah, you may add.
Also, we are in the science education. Our students also somehow created this or developed this book. Like they are the one who developed a book and booklet in terms of science. So they use that booklet, or like for example about environmental literacy. So they create that booklet as part of their thesis or research, and they give that to the students.
Oh no, I mean, are the students designed or?
Yeah, the students design and with the help of teachers.
Are they assigned to do that?
As part of their research, ma'am.
I see. Yeah. So the students' research are directed to the issue of gamification. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Do you conduct research in school, maybe senior high school?
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The last year, one of our students, because I'm the advisor of those students, created this game about the periodic table of elements, and they implemented that to the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics program in the senior high school, because in our institution we do have senior high school. So based from the result, and yeah, there is an increase in terms of motivation and the competency level. So especially in our case, science, it's very difficult if they don't know the foundations. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, maybe we'll be join research with our department, because maybe you will be a speaker tomorrow in our department. We will talk about this yes, deeply, maybe.
Yes, ma'am. It's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
it's adhan calling. We are listening to that first. Nggak apa-apa ya. Mana? Langsung di closing aja. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, well, I think to make the event more effective, I think I'm going to the wrap-up sessions. Yeah. Yeah. So before we close this event, let me do the wrap-up sessions. Let me recap some of the key issues that we had for these discussions, and I have written some key points regarding our discussion today. The first one is assessments is very important, and for us to be able to manage that right and on the track is very crucial as well. Yeah, and there are some challenges in assessment, and one of them is related to the issue of technology involvement, and for that we need to be able to manage that well. And the last one, there are some topics that are interesting to research further, which are related to both assessment and also innovations, which includes the inclusions of technology in the education, especially for science-based subjects, which are basically not easy to find out. Yeah, so the use of technology will help that. And that means that is the end of our session today. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending these sessions. And before closing, I would like to extend our thanks to both Justine and Tomas for sharing knowledge and information with us all today. And also thank you very much for the audience. Your engagement, questions, and also comments have made these sessions more interesting and enriching. I think we will look forward to having more discussions like this with both of you, maybe, or other speakers. Yeah. So on behalf of the team, the entire team, let me close this event by reciting Alhamdulillah together. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. From me, stay safe and stay happy. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.